we need more congressmen up in Washington to have a backbone like Congressman McCotter. It is my proud time right now to introduce America's friend, the United States House of Representatives, Republican House Policy Chairman, the 11th District Congressman. Thank you, Congressman Thaddeus McCotter, for being here.
I have to say this is the first time I've ever spoken after myself. I know some of you who watch Red Eye will have questions about Gutfeld, Bill, and Andy. I'm not going to answer those. Because I'm in Sue Myrick's backyard. The reason I came all this way is to discuss where our nation is, the challenges we face, and also to send a very important message. Every single one of you matters. Every single one of you here tonight is a sovereign American citizen. The efforts that you put forward in the cause of continuing and improving our revolutionary experiment of democracy and self-government is appreciated. I know that there seems to be a disconnect between Washington and the American people. There is. It is between the Democratic majority and the American people. As a representative of Michigan, as a representative of our party, Congress, I just want you to know we hear you, we respect you. We hope you send us a majority to serve in the next Congress.
Don't go. Show him where.
You know, Americans every single day find because our purpose as a country remains as always been. It is to show the world what a free people can achieve. Sometimes we do not face as great of challenges as we do at other times. Today we face challenges. Here, tonight, the Reagan Legacy Dinner. It is wise to reflect upon a man who understood the great challenges the United States faced as he entered the Oval Office. Ronald Reagan knew that the United States was in decline and retreat under policies running from Lyndon Johnson through James Earl Carter. And what got Ronald Reagan to be president and to be an effective president and now a beloved former president was the fact that he always trusted the American people, not Washington. And I say this as the son of a Reagan Democrat. My father was a Union-era German Democrat who in 1980 saw what his party was, did not like it, did not like its effects on the country, and voted for Ronald Reagan. He was what you would call a culturally conservative Democrat. His father grew up in the North with his brother. His sister had to be sent away to live with other people. The mother had died and the father could not afford to take care of her. This is a man who grew up saying that you never take a handout from anybody. There is an inherent dignity in work. That this is the greatest country on the face of the earth. This is also the man, my brother and I were little, who put us in his car, drive to Ann Arbor, University of Michigan, point at the hippies, and tell us don't ever become one of them. So when my father voted for Ronald Reagan while I was relatively young, I could not vote at the time. It made a distinct impression on me. And unfortunately, while my father passed in 1984, I'm sure my father would have voted for him then. Because he believed that America is a virtuous nation, an industrial nation, and it is a nation that is a beacon of hope to all the world. So when I think back on Ronald Reagan, I think back on my father, back on my mother, who was a moderate Republican. And I think back to how I was at your age, prior to his election and after his election. prior to his election, you have to understand, we were told it was the end of the Republican Party. When James Earl Carter was inaugurated in 1976, it was the first presidential election since Watergate. In fact, post-Watergate, immediately after that, the Republican Party was polling to see if it needed to change its name. The polling showed that it kind of did, unfortunately. The party didn't respond to polls at that period of time. People my age were supposed to grow up and be Democrats because there had been a fundamental realignment. Finally, the Southern Democrats had joined with the Northeastern intellectual elites and with the youth movement that was starting to mature that was once called the New Left. And they had formed this new coalition to govern America. And the Republican Party was going to be represented in Canada history. Well, after 4 years, people realized that rhetoric and reality are two different things. And that campaigning and governing are also two different things. And within that scant 4 years, the Democratic Party had unmasked itself. It was not a centrist party. It was a party beholden to the left that could not govern the nation through very difficult times. Times, as I have said, in which freedom had to be defined. When Ronald Reagan was elected, Ronald Reagan was running. What did we hear? People look back and they think that it was all fated to be, that Ronald Reagan was a loved individual, a great communicator prior to his election. He was reviled by the left. He was called an amiable dunce in the mainstream media. Why? Because he was so dumb when he talked we understood and agreed with him as American people. Right? It wasn't some magic act. Ronald Reagan had fundamentally understood the home truths of America and communicated them to real people. And we heard it. So when Ronald Reagan got into office, an economy was suffering stagflation, rising prices, rising unemployment, the communist threat from the Soviet Union advancing across the globe, this country after country would fall into its sphere of influence. Ronald Reagan stood for those principles, explained them to the American people, united behind him, and passed legislation to reduce the threat, reduce the burden of government on the American people, and to follow a policy of peace through strength. By 1984, stagflation was gone, the American economy was booming, and the Soviet Union was about to start meeting with Ronald Reagan to discuss the terms of their surrender in the Cold War and their trip to the ash can of history. And that legacy of Ronald Reagan should guide us through these times. But we should also remember that Ronald Reagan was not someone who was backward. Ronald Reagan did not run to be the President of the United States and to be the next Dwight Eisenhower. He did not say we should go back to Teddy Roosevelt, back to Lincoln. What he understood was what Edmund Burke called the contract of eternal society. He said we inherit from the past, we preserve it in the present, and we bequeath it to the future. Ronald Reagan was an authentic individual and an optimist who did not try to replicate the accomplishments of the past, but tried to navigate the treacherous shoals of the present and on into his future. Which is why today we have to be very careful not to romanticize it, not to misconstrue the policies that he pursued, not to omit or overlook all that went into the philosophy of governance which he held. I come from Detroit again. My father was a Union Democrat, true Union Democrat. And so when I hear certain projections of what Ronald Reagan would or would not do, these do not jive with the Ronald Reagan that